Hello, fabulous humans, and welcome to episode 2 of About That with me, your host, your favorite geek psychologist, your favorite pop culture enthusiast, your favorite queen of the nerds, Dr. Vanessa Hintz. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am beyond excited because today's episode is focused on one of my most favorite things in the history of forever, and that is the television show Supernatural. More specifically, I'm going to talk to you all about my recent experience at the Salute to Supernatural convention put on by Creation Entertainment. Now, I am not a convention newbie. I have been around the block a little bit with regard to convention attendance. I've been to Comic-Cons, Fan Expos, C2E2, you name it. I have been around the convention space, but prior to this experience with Creation, never have I ever been to a convention that was focused on a specific fandom. And so I'm excited to talk to you all about that experience and also bring some stories, bring some testimonies from other fans that I met in that space, that I was very fortunate to meet in that space. But before we get there, just to give a background, I don't want to assume that everybody knows everything about Supernatural. So for those who may be unfamiliar, Supernatural is a show that focuses on two brothers, Sam and Dean Winchester, played by Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles, respectively. Supernatural was a show on the CW that ran for 15 seasons, 327 episodes, maybe 328. I don't know. I think it's 327. A lot of episodes between the years of 2005 and 2020. And interestingly enough, Supernatural, there was a recent poll that came out, I think, earlier this week, maybe, but a Nielsen poll that showed that in 2022, Supernatural was still in the top 15 most streamed shows in the United States. So it was number 11. Number 1 was Stranger Things, just to give everybody some perspective. But Supernatural, although it is over, the fandom is still going strong. And so I want to tell you all a little bit about my experience of coming into this fandom because I am still a newbie. I must admit, I had not seen a single episode of Supernatural until the summer of 2022. July 13th, 2022, to be exact. I documented it on my Instagram. July 13th, 2022 was the first time I ever watched Supernatural. And that was not without folks insisting over the years that I watch the show. Most specifically, my mother, my older sister, they would constantly tell me how much I needed to watch this show. You would enjoy it. It's your type of thing. What are you doing? You need to come on and get with Sam and Dean and figure out what's going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would love it. But me, I have big Taurus energy. I was like, don't tell me what to do. I'll do it when I'm good and well ready. I always felt like Supernatural, that they have too much going on. There's 15 seasons. There's 92,000 episodes. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. I spend all my time trying to keep up with The Young and the Restless. I don't have time to keep up with this too. And so it just the stars never aligned for me to really get into the show until last summer when I actually was watching The Boys on Amazon. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, The Boys is an Amazon series that's based on a comic series. And it really is just about privatizing the superhero industry and what that would be like in our capitalist society. Real dope. That show has been on since 2019. Currently 3 full seasons, and we're waiting for season 4. Very anxiously awaiting season 4. But I was also, late to watching The Boys as well. So I pretty much binged everything last summer. And season 3 of The Boys features a character known as Soldier Boy, who was played by Jensen Ackles. And when I watched season 3 of The Boys, I was immediately enthralled with this man. And I will be upfront and honest, very transparent. One of his first sort of live non-flashback scenes in The Boys is him pretty much just butt ass naked. And I was here for it. I was here for it and will always be here for it. But he came onto the screen and I was just immediately obsessed. Immediately obsessed. And not only because he's very attractive, not only because his body is banging, not only because of that. I don't want to objectify this man. I will also say there was something that he brought to that character that I was instantly like, I wanted to know everything about this man. And so after I binged The Boys and I became Jensen Ackles obsessed, I told my mom, I remember calling her and I said, okay, it's the summertime. The only sports on right now is WNBA. I'm watching the WNBA, but there's not games every day. I still have all this time to fill. So let me just go ahead and give Supernatural a shot. And the rest is history. I was drawn in immediately, even though, again, this show started in 2005 and that was a very different world versus what we live in now. The stories, the interactions between Jared and Jess, I was just absolutely enthralled. And so I became an Insta fan instantly. And I remember going to San Diego Comic-Con shortly after. So I started watching Supernatural mid-July. San Diego Comic-Con was near the end of July. And I remember I was 2 weeks in, I think I was maybe on season 2 of Supernatural. And I went to a panel in San Diego that a few of my friends were speaking on. And one of the panelists was Ruth Connell, who is an actress in later seasons of Supernatural. She plays Rowena. And at the time, I had no idea of the significance, right? Like, I am sitting in this panel with this woman talking about Supernatural fandom, and me, a newbie, I'm like, yeah, this is so great. And I remember Ruth mentioned Supernatural conventions and how awesome she found them and how it's just a place of love for the show, for the fans. You said, what now? There's an entire convention devoted to Supernatural? Sign me up yesterday. And again, at this point, y'all, I'm 2 weeks into watching this show, but I made the decision. Like, I'm going immediately. Made that decision. I'm going. Let's figure it out. And so got home from San Diego and I started doing my research, and I found out that the Supernatural conventions were put on by a company, Creation Entertainment, which I hadn't heard of prior to this. I reached out to a few people I knew to ask if they had any, familiarity with this company. Well, some folks didn't. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to give it a shot. And so the first thing that I had to do was decide where I was going to go. Creation does these conventions all over everywhere, and I had to decide what was going to work for me, what was going to work for my pockets, when I could go. And so ultimately I decided to go to the first show of 2023 that was being held in Vegas. So made that decision and went to this convention because Creation sells a number of different passes to their conventions. So they have gold, silver, copper, and general admission. And of course, I'm bougie. I was like, give me that gold. Come on. Because with each of those passes, you get certain experiences that are included, certain perks, etc. So of course, like, go hard or go home, I decided I want to get this gold pass. So boom, great, grand, wonderful. And after that, pretty much anything else that you want to do at the convention, you sort of buy a la carte style. Now, y'all, when I say I should have come up with a plan or something before I just started spending all this money, I didn't have no kind of plan. I was just up here making it rain. Like, yep, I want to take that picture. I want to do this thing. I want to do this. I want to do that. Before you know, it adds up. It adds up to enough money to feed a small country. You know what I'm saying? And so the other thing I think that was interesting about this convention is that, it's called Salute to Supernatural and Other J&J projects, J&J being Jared and Jensen. And so in addition to being supernatural focused, there were also folks there from Smallville, from Walker, and from Walker Independence. And so not only are you getting to interact with the people that you know and love for Supernatural, but you're also getting to interact with these other folks as well. So I thought that was a cool sort of perk. And so once me and my wallet sort of got ourselves together, I was excited. I was excited and excited to go to the show. So in addition to picking out these experiences a la carte, what it is that I wanted to do, Creation auctions off different types of experiences that you can have as well. So things I bid on, the VIP experience to the convention, which essentially entailed 10 folks having the peak experience. So the VIP experience allowed us to have 10-minute meet and greets with all of the celebrities that were in attendance. And we got to go to the front of the line for all the things. And so it was pretty dope. I will say that the auction process of bidding on that and ultimately winning that was a whole bunch for my blood pressure. I don't know how people do auctions. I don't know how. It was too much. I am also entirely too competitive. And so as soon as the bidding started, I was like, well, I done started now. I'm not going to stop. This is why I don't gamble. It would have been a whole hot mess. But nonetheless, in addition to that VIP experience, I also bid on and was fortunate enough to win a meet and greet with Jared Padalecki, a meet and greet with Jensen Ackles, and then a meet and greet with them together. And for Creation, these meet and greets are for 20 folks, and they last about 30 minutes. So it's an opportunity to sort of be in a closed, intimate setting with these folks and just have sort of like, a rap session. And so that was super dope. Before I even get to this convention, y'all, I had dropped a whole bunch of money and was so excited. So excited. I remember in the days leading up to going, I was so nervous about COVID because Creation is very clear. Like, you have to be COVID negative and you have to prove that you're COVID negative regardless of vaccination status. And so either you have to bring your own COVID results with you or you have to do a test there in front of them. And so I elected to do the latter. And I was so nervous. I don't know why. COVID is unpredictable. I was real extra with my husband in the days leading up. Like, yo, if this COVID is the reason I don't get to see Jensen, I'm going to throw punch you. And so I was yelling at him about putting on his mask, like all this wild stuff. COVID didn't get me though, y'all. I was able to go. And so something that is a bit different about the Vegas Supernatural Convention versus others is that it is a total of 4 days instead of 3. And so you get to have that extra day, a little bit more time. Things seem to be a little bit more spread out. And so on the eve before that first night, we were able to go and get registered. And I will say that from the very beginning, from the time that I went to go pick up my registration, my little badge and my goodie bag, I felt so welcomed. And I want to take this opportunity to give a special shout out to Misty at Creation. She was our VIP concierge. She is amazing. You have to have a special, unique set of skills to do what it is that she does, chauffeuring people around and doing all these things. And she is amazing. And like I said, from the very beginning, she made me feel comfortable. She made sure I was where I needed to be. When I looked overwhelmed or when I looked any kind of way, she was right there to help me out. And so shout out to you, Misty. I appreciate you. But from the very beginning, I felt very, very welcomed and, again, very excited. And so the first 2 days of the convention, this was a Thursday and Friday for us in Vegas. As I mentioned, we typically there are only 3 days. And so this was kind of like day one spread out over 2 days. But I will say that for me, initially, it was very overwhelming. And by overwhelming, I mean, in the VIP space, we had a schedule to keep. As I mentioned, there were these, different 10-minute sessions with all of these folks that were coming in and out. And so there was like a schedule to keep. And that was a lot for me, and not because I don't know how to keep a schedule because I'm very type A. My life is very scheduled. I think it was just getting the flow of everything, like when you need to be where, what you need to bring, what you can't bring. things like that. So the first day was a bit touch and go for me because it definitely took some time to get used to the flow and the structure. But once I hit my stride, I hit it. And so those first 2 days, pretty supernatural centric. A lot of the guests, the actors, celebrities that were there were supernatural actors. And something that I think that's interesting about the way creation runs their show that was a bit different for me is that when actors are doing panels, these panels are very unstructured. So it's essentially an actor or a group of actors on the stage just having like a whole conversation session. Like there's no moderator really. There's none of that. Like people are just kind of up there doing their thing. They're taking questions. And I think that there were some positives and negatives about that. You know, as a moderator myself, I definitely saw some opportunity for some stuff. So creation, hit me up if you want to hear more about that. That's a shameless plug. But I do think, again, it was an opportunity for fans to really have dedicated time with these folks. And so that was over the first 2 days. And I would say by day 2, I really feel like I hit my stride with regard to the schedule. And I will also say I sort of shed some of my never-ending self-consciousness, my never-ending insecurity about, you know, being in spaces. What are people gonna think? I feel like a lot of that started to shed my second day, and namely because I debuted my first supernatural cosplay on day 2. Inspiration, season 4, episode 13, after school special. My first Dean cosplay was the gym teacher. And immediately people were like, yo, that's dope. People knew what it was, wanted to take pictures. It made me feel, again, very comfortable. It definitely helped with my anxiety of being in a new space, and being around folks I didn't know by myself. It was cool. In addition, the second day was the first time I laid eyes on a replica of Baby. And for those of you who are not Supernatural fans, those of you who are not familiar, the car that Sam and Dean drive around in for 15 seasons is a 1967 Chevy Impala. And it is lovingly called Baby. And I remember pulling up to the convention on that second day. My husband was dropping me off so he could just go out and live his best life in these Vegas streets. He was like, yo, is that the car from Supernatural? And he is not even a fan like I am, but he was excited. I was excited. There was something so amazing about seeing that car in person. A car that you feel like has its own personality, a car that you have, you know, spent countless hours of your life looking at. And the folks who owned the car, they had all these props, so nice. Also fans of the show. They were telling me all these stories about their experience going to see Supernatural be filmed. It was just super dope. And so I think that, in addition to being in costume, really not only sort of ratcheted up my excitement, but also, again, my comfort level. And so the last thing I'll sort of say about this second day is that Friday night, there is a karaoke. And again, for me, someone who is all the way self-conscious, I was not about that life. I am not about that life with karaoke. I, again, am far too nervous about people thinking something negatively of me. I'm working on it. But I was like, nah, I'm going to go, though. I'm going to go because the karaoke night was hosted by a number of the actors, most notably Samantha Smith, who plays Mary Winchester, and DJ Qualls, who plays Garth on Supernatural. They were the hosts. And essentially, these actors sang with folks who came up there to do karaoke. So it was just a very cool atmosphere. And even me and my self-consciousness, I was like, yo, I could go up there and do karaoke. I missed them sign-ups, though. So I'm going to have to do that next time. But that was a beautiful day, a beautiful way, to end the second day. And really get everybody super excited for Saturday, because Saturday was the day that Jared and Jensen were coming. it was the day that we were finally going to get to see them and touch them, not in a creepy way. And so I was all kinds of excited coming into Saturday. I debuted my second Supernatural cosplay, another Dean cosplay, inspired by the second greatest episode of Supernatural ever, Scooby Natural, season 13, episode 16. And so I was dressed as Dean with the ascot and everything. It was awesome. And again, people knew off top, like, oh, Scooby Natural. It was cool. Now, when I tell you all, I was not prepared for how I was going to feel or react when I saw Jared and Jensen in person. I remember we were standing in this room in the hotel space. The car was there, baby was there, because we were waiting for what they call J2 baby photo ops, which was a photo of Jared, Jensen, you, and baby. And so we were standing here waiting. The car is here. There's like this palpable anticipation. And then from around the corner comes this whole gang of people. But the two people that you see, that you lay eyes on, are these people that you have likely lusted after, watching all 327/328 episodes of Supernatural. When I tell y'all, Jared and Jensen came around this corner, and I swear the clouds parted. The sun was shining behind them. There was a hallelujah chorus. I swear they were walking in slow motion. Hair was just fabulous. Skin was popping. Pecs was popping. Like, it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful, figuratively and literally. Okay? I was not ready. I was absolutely not ready. And I remember, like, my heart started going, and I was sweating. I had the vapors. I was like, oh my gosh, I need a fan. And I remember saying to myself, I think I'm going to pass out. And it was my turn to go up to the front and take my picture. And you literally walk up. They touch you, not in a creepy way. They ask you how you want to pose. Cool. And I remember I walked up and I said, I think I'm going to pass out. And I will never forget this. Jared Padalecki said to me, if you fall, I'll catch you. Whew, y'all. My knees almost gave way. It was amazing. It was amazing. And so that was my first experience with them live and in person. And again, it was something, even talking about it now, like my heart, I'm having palpitations. It was so amazing. And later on that day was when I had the opportunity to engage in those meet and greets with them, which again was me and 19 other folks in a room. Just having a conversation with them, and the fact that creation offers that they are willing to have that type of experience with fans, it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. Also on Saturday, Misha Collins was there. So for people who are unfamiliar, Misha Collins, aka Castiel the Angel, from Supernatural, he did a panel in the main event space. He's like really funny, and you feel like, you know, for those of you who watch Supernatural, like Castiel is who he is. Misha Collins is hilarious. And I appreciated, again, the opportunity to ask questions. I didn't get to ask my question because I was too far in the back of the line. But that was cool. It was cool to sort of have, again, that experience with him. And to see him in person. And sort of the last thing I'll say about Saturday, the way Saturday ends, is with what they call the Saturday night special. So Loudon Swain is a band whose lead singer, Rob Benedict, is also an actor from Supernatural. He played Chuck, a.k.a. God, on Supernatural. And so his band sort of plays the Saturday night set. A concert, and in addition to that, different actors from the show who are musically inclined come out and they sing a song too. And when I tell y'all, these people was up there singing, okay? People just kept coming out of the back singing. Like, I was ready to throw a shoe, you know, throw money, whatever you do. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what you do at concerts. I don't go to concerts. But I was ready to throw something because these people was up here singing, okay? I feel like can everybody on the cast sing? Like, it was beautiful. We unfortunately did not get to hear Jensen sing. I know a lot of people were waiting for him to grace us with his presence. He did not, unfortunately, so I'm just going to hope that next time I attend a creation event that he comes out of the bag and he sings. But nonetheless, it was an amazing experience. I was proud of myself for staying up late 2 days in a row. And so then we roll into Sunday, which by this time, this is day 4 of the convention. I am beyond exhausted. I feel like I'm about to pass out. Your adrenaline and emotions are just so high for such a sustained period of time that I was like, okay, yo, like I need to sleep for several days after this. Nonetheless, that last day was bittersweet because, again, you're sort of in this space filled with so much love, so much excitement that you really don't want it to end. You don't want to go back to, your regular schmegular. But nonetheless, I debuted my 3rd cosplay on day 4 of the convention, another Dean cosplay, inspired by Season 5, Episode 16 of Supernatural, Dark Side of the Moon. And this was the Dean I Love Hugs t-shirt. And so Sunday was dedicated primarily to the boys. The convention sort of schedule was dedicated to Jared and Jensen. They did a panel early on in the day for people who had a gold pass. So that is one of the perks, one of the benefits of getting a gold pass is you get this sort of exclusive panel with them. And then they did a panel later on that day for everybody. And in addition, I was fortunate enough to be able to participate in a meet and greet with both of them. So again, about 20 people in a space with the two of them just having a conversation. And one thing that I realized is how, what's the word? I don't want to say their chemistry because that sounds cliche, but clearly they're very, very familiar with one another, and it just seemed very genuine. The way that they were engaging, you could really think that they're brothers in real life. I mean, the energy that they had together, talking with one another, the way that they were joking, telling dad jokes. It was just really awesome to be in a space like that and to be able to witness that and to see like some of Sam and Dean in them as well. And I think, what I also realized is how much they value the show Supernatural, even though they have both, it's over and they have moved on to doing other things. They value the show. They value the fandom. The fact that they make time, make space to do these conventions as regularly as they do, I think, again, is a testament to who they are as individuals and, again, to how much they value fans and the show. And so I am so grateful for the experience that I had, particularly as a Supernatural newbie. Again, I know this show been around for days. There are plenty of OGs. I'm sort of new to this game. I am just so thankful and so fortunate that I was able to have this experience. And so what I want to do now is transition to some conversations that I had with folks at the convention, because I sort of put out feelers, me being a psychologist and wanting to know all about everybody's life and their stories and their experience. I knew that when I came to this convention, I wanted to hear from folks. I wanted to hear about what it is that they love about Supernatural, what it is that they love about the fandom experience. I am grateful that a few folks took me up on that offer. And so I want to give a very special thank you to Jules, to Laura, to Francis, to Rebecca, and to Megan. I appreciate you all, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking time out of your convention experience to chat with me. And I'm so excited and so grateful to bring their stories to you all, not only today, but over the course of many episodes. And so I want to start with Jules, because Jules is what I would call a Supernatural OG. And I'm going to let her explain to you what and why that is. But before doing so, I want to just elevate and highlight what I appreciate about what Jules shared with me. And that is her perspective on the benefits, the value, the love of the Supernatural fandom space.
Hello, my name's Jules, and if you didn't guess, I'm from Australia. I actually started watching Supernatural in January of 2006 when it started airing in Australia. It was slightly falsely advertised as being from the producers of The X-Files, which Kim Manners was a producer, and he was a producer on The X-Files. But anyway, I'd been a huge, big X-Files fan. I'm a big horror fan, and that's what got me into Supernatural. I did know Jensen from Dark Angel, and I knew Padalecki had been on that Gilmore Girls show, which I didn't watch because chick flick stuff. And yes, I fell deeply into the show very quickly. I was already on LiveJournal, and so it took me 2.5 minutes to find the fandom. At that time, we were about half a season behind in Australia, so I used to watch the weekly episodes on YouTube at the time. And at the time, you could only upload 7-minute videos on YouTube, so I used to watch the episodes in 7-minute blocks. It was the dark times of technology. But yeah, fell in love with the show and the fandom, and started working on a website called the Supernatural Wiki, which was cataloguing everything about the show, but also about the fandom. The woman who started the site was very much into these things are equal. You know, there's canon and fanon, and they're all together. And that was very much my philosophy too. And so I got involved with that, and I've been running that for the last years. I started going to FanCon, so there was a FanCon called Winchester Con, which started in 2006. 200 fans turned up in Nashville and had a drunken weekend, and then that ran every year for quite a while. I went to the first 4, starting in 2007. So I came from Australia to hang out with all these fangirls, none of whom I'd met in real life before, but it was all my favourite fanfic authors and creators, and my tagline's always been, fandom is my fandom. Yes. So whatever show, I'm obviously Supernatural obsessed, but I'm also peripherally on a million fandoms, and it's fans that I love, and meeting, as everyone will probably tell you, it's meeting the other people, sharing that passion, being able to fly your freak flag and be obsessed and bring everything back to Supernatural or Sam and Dean or Cass or whatever, and not have people go, what are you talking about? And so after 2010 going to WinCon, and that, as I said, they were just fan conventions, no actors or anything. That had become a multi-fandom convention, but I was still very Supernatural obsessed. I went to San Diego Comic-Con in 2010 and loved that, and then started coming to the Creation Con, sort of doing one of these a year, mainly the Vancouver Con, because then you got to see them filming the show, and lucky enough through the website to meet people who worked on the show. And at both San Diego and Vancouver, I ran a thing called Wayward Cocktails. So on the Monday after the con, I'd have people from the show and the fans basically have a pub night. Some of my happiest moments, seeing people who work on the show, who are passionate and fans of the show, and the fans just hanging out and all loving on the show and each other. And I think that's one of the really unique things about Supernatural is the relationship we have, not just with the actors, but the people who worked on the show. There'd never been another fandom where people knew the first AD and everyone in the VFX team, and particularly because of the conventions in Vancouver, people would have dinner with people from the crew, and it became, because it came at the same time that, you know, Twitter was still a nice place to be, you got to connect with these people. So it was a very special experience, I think, that we had with that. So this is my Vegas con in 2023, my first con back since the before times, since 2019. And I didn't know if I'd come back when the show had finished. I didn't know if I'd come back to a creation con with Supernatural, but it's such a great chance to catch up with so many friends I've made, but also I love the atmosphere here. It's like champagne, the bubbles of squee, and seeing people happy and connecting is just a delight, and there's not enough of it, not enough of silly playfulness in the world, and I think that's what fandom gives a lot of us, is just a chance to just love on something that, you know, on one level is totally inconsequential, and on the other is the most meaningful thing in our life.
Yes, Jules, I absolutely hear you and I feel you particularly with letting your, what I'll call your geek flag fly. I am absolutely one of those people who can relate any situation to an episode of Supernatural and to any horror movie, quite honestly. I know my husband be side-eyeing me. Something will happen or we'll see something while we're out, and I'll say, oh, yeah, that was like this one time when Dean... And he just has had enough of me, okay? And I will say that, again, at a place like Creation Con or in any sort of fandom space, you can do that, and it's awesome, and it's fabulous, and it is something that allows you to feel so connected with people that you may not have ever thought to approach or ever thought that you would have anything in common with because of the way you look, because of where you live, because of whatever. And I think that is something that's so beautiful and healing about the power not only of pop culture, but the power of fandom as well. And even sometimes, like we will hear Laura describe, the power of fandom is infectious. And people who maybe don't feel like they can connect with a show or a character or whatever, find out that perhaps they were mistaken.
I'm new to the fandom community, and I've had a blast so far. I mean, I'm in several Facebook groups and then on Twitter, and I feel like people get me, and I'm like, we're just wild and just I love it so much. And I mean, I've had a blast. Even in the short time that I've been here, yesterday and today, I've asked people, oh, can I stay here? Like, because I wasn't sure, and where do I go, and where's this? And everybody has just been so nice. And then, just going to the vendor tables and engaging with them, and their fans too. And actually, I brought my mom, and she's only seen half an episode. She's like, no, it's not my type of show. But they were talking to her at the vendor table, and the Castiel. I interrogated the cat, or I'll interrogate the cat. So we're talking about that episode, and she's like, okay, I might give it a try. And I'm like, I call that success.
Come on, Laura's mom. Come on over. Come on over to the Supernatural fandom family. And I use the word family intentionally because, again, for folks that I talk to, and for a lot of people in these fandom spaces, that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like family, whether that's biological family, chosen family, found family, or what have you. For a lot of folks, for many folks, again, these experiences, this experience of social connectedness can be somewhat spiritual, for lack of a better word, can be life-changing, can be healing, can be all of those things. Don't take my word for it. Listen to my girl Frances tell you about her experience.
For me, I remember, finding out about Supernatural, started watching, and then I waited till I finished so I wouldn't have any spoilers before I officially became a part of the fandom online. I started watching all these videos, all the bloopers on YouTube, and then here comes the con videos, and I got super depressed. I'm like, oh, they probably are done, the show is over, no more. And then lo and behold, an ad, Creation Conventions, Supernatural, Vegas 2022. Say what now? Sign me up. I just got my tax return. Cool, let's go. Government's paying for Supernatural. So I went to my first con last year, and it was the best experience I could have ever had. I went by myself, and I ended up making my found family. And I couldn't ask for a better thing. And it was just such a, I don't want to say spiritual, but it was like this really amazing experience that I've never had before. And I, like I said, found my family, my new family, meeting the actors that I had been watching on screen, and like going through all these emotions with them, and like seeing them in person, that some of them are still alive. they're not actually dead, they're alive. It was really cool and really exciting. And then this year is my second con, and already I'm having the best time. And these stories and these memories that I'm going to have, yes, I'm paying a crap ton of money into this thing, but it's all worth it at the end of the day, because my depression is gone for 4 days. I'm here, I'm thriving, I'm living the best life I can have, and meeting all these fun people. And even though we all have different things that we believe in for the show, different things are canon, I believe in a lot of things that other people don't see in the show. And like, I read into subtext, and they're like, that's not the subtext, this is the subtext. I'm like, cool, you have your beliefs, I have mine, we're cool, we can coexist peacefully. I'm still gonna love these guys, you're still gonna love these guys. And it's totally fine, and we get along, and it's great. And I love that we can be so different about something that is the one thing that we love. And we have the different opinions, but we love it the same, and we love each other, and it has been like the best experience that I've ever had, and I love it here.
Yes, ma'am. Francis, come on with the love. That is beautiful and such an amazing segue to the end of this episode, to the end of this conversation, where I am prepared to give you all my appraisal, my opinions, my overall assessment and evaluation of the Salute to Supernatural and other J&J projects convention. And so, Creation Entertainment, about that. And so, I'm going to deliver this compliment sandwich style because that is how Stewie Griffin taught me, and that is my favorite way to deliver information. I'm going to start with something good. And for me, you have heard it throughout this episode, throughout the stories that you just heard, throughout my story. The Supernatural fandom is legit. The experience that I had with other folks in that space was unlike any other that I've ever experienced. The amount of joy and love that was in that space. And, you know, afterwards, I heard a lot of people talking about PCD, or post-convention depression. And let me just tell you, I'm a whole professional, and I will say that's absolutely a real thing, because you're in this space where emotions are so high, adrenaline is so high, and it's just taken away from you. Like the rug is pulled out from under you. And so there is sort of like residual effects of that. I feel like I experienced that. I feel like I'm still experiencing that. And so for me, one of the absolute highlights, again, was being able to engage with the fandom in this way. I want to give a special shout out to the people who were in the VIP experience with me in Vegas, because you all absolutely held me down when I had no idea what was going on, when I didn't know how I was going to pose, what have you. So to Tom, to Rich, to Anjanette, to Valerie, to Cheryl, to Mary and Margaret, to Angela, to Raina, and to Misty, our fearless leader, thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart for making this such a tremendous experience. It's one that I will absolutely never forget. And something else that I will never forget is how much all of this cost. And so for me, if I had to point to something that was maybe not so awesome, I don't like the word negative, I will say not so awesome, an area for growth, an area for improvement. This convention was very expensive. It was very expensive, and I will admit I chose to make it super expensive because I was trying to be bougie up in here and have all of these different experiences. And I think that the cost of the convention, the cost of some of these events and experiences is out of reach for a lot of people. And I don't blame creation for that. We live in America. We live in a capitalist society. We live in a period where inflation is off the chain. I understand people need to make money so that they can continue doing what they're doing. So again, this is no way, shape, or form blame. It's something that I feel like needs to be said and needs to be sort of elevated, that the supernatural fandom is amazing. It is strong. And again, I think for some folks, it's just not possible for them to participate in something like this and to be able to do all of the things, because again, it is very expensive. I paid probably a semester's worth of college tuition to go to this event, depending on what university we're talking about, in-state, out-of-state, whatever. I paid a lot of money. And with that, I will absolutely say that I feel like I got every dollar's worth of what I paid. So the sort of bottom piece of bread on this compliment sandwich is creation is like a well-oiled machine. I feel like they had everything together. I feel like the way that they put this show together, the things that they offered, were absolutely worth all of the money and all of the credit card debt. Because again, I could not have imagined. I mean, for me, one of the highlights came at Friday night karaoke. At the end of the night, this room full of people who were pretty much strangers before this, but share a love for something, were belting out Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas at the very top of their lungs. And if you're like me, you were singing and trying not to just fall into a heap on the floor because of the emotional energy around that song. But that was something that I never could have imagined, and it was absolutely fabulous. I got to sit across the table from Jensen freaking Ackles. I got to make eye contact with him. I got to hug him. I told him a joke and he laughed. Like, that is something that I will not ever forget. Jared Padalecki, if you didn't know, gives amazing hugs. When he hugs you, you feel like you've been best friends forever and ever. He is so genuine. He remembered that I was a psychologist. He thanked me for being a psychologist and for doing the work that I do. So nice. And again, an experience I didn't think that I would have. I didn't think that everybody around that convention would remember, that's Dr. Vanessa. Like, you're the doctor. I remember DJ Qualls said to me, are you sure you're a doctor? Like, you look very young. Like, are you sure? Thank you to creation, to the people that allowed me, to my husband for allowing me to pay all this money to have these experiences. My overall assessment, overall appraisal is that if you are a fan of the show, if you are able to do so, I highly recommend taking advantage of the opportunity to experience this. And I also want to thank you all for your time, your attention, and sticking with me during this episode. I am very much looking forward to bringing you more supernatural-centric content in the days to come. Until then, I wish health, safety, and joy for you and your family. And carry on, folks. Did you see what I did there? Carry on. Until next time, beautiful people.